So today is executive function hacks, and this is going to be fun. And we're going to talk about like hacks and things that you can do to make executive function easier. So first off, what is executive function? If you haven't heard of that before, well, a lot of researchers say that ADHD really is not an attention deficit. It's not correctly named. It's actually an executive function disorder because there are different parts of our brain that have developed a little bit differently when you look at the neuroscience of that. And so things that might feel easy to a neurotypical person might feel harder to us. And then things that might feel harder to a neurotypical person might feel easier to us. So our brain is kind of specialized. And so, some of the basics like laundry or cleaning or emails or the boring stuff that might feel natural or easy to them feels boring for us. And yet we have all these great ideas. We can lock onto stuff for hours and people get bored of it, get under pressure and stress. So there's a lot of great things. What it's called though is executive dysfunction, which can control a couple different things. It can be like monitoring or managing emotions. It can be regulating impulse control. I'm going to do a screen share right now because I have a really good graphic that I want to show you of all the different types of executive function. So I'll do a screen share. Okay. So here's a nice little cartoon. So executive dysfunction controls emotional control, manage our feelings, time management, especially time blindness, right? Ability to gauge tasks, how long they take, flexibility, adapting to change, task switching from one task to another, organization, developing systems, task initiation, ability to start and stop tasks, which again is that task switching, working memory, which we talked about last week, ability to use your memory to complete tasks, hold things, self-control, ability to stop and think before acting, impulse control. So these are all the things that are impacted by executive function. And as I said, a lot of researchers say that we have, with ADHD, a lot of us have executive dysfunction on some of these more basic skills, and yet we can be really good at other ones. And so there are two things, because what I'm talking about hacks with this is as you go about your life, you want to, especially if you're newly diagnosed and you're unmasking, meaning you're stopping to not try to hide your symptoms anymore. When you can design your life around your brain instead of rely on discipline or all these techniques, things get easier. Mental health gets easier. Anxiety eases up. Everything you can do, because yes, you can use certain techniques or discipline to do certain things, and yet then when you start this task, you've got to go through these steps to be able to make yourself do it. And then you start this task and you've got to do this to be able, and then you start this task. That adds up. That itself tasks our executive dysfunction when we're using all these techniques to start little tasks. And so what these hacks are, and what I want you to think about is, what if, and there's kind of two themes you'll see this. What if this whole week is an experiment? You couldn't use discipline the whole week. You couldn't. You could only do things if they felt easier, more natural. If you felt a lot of resistance, you couldn't do it. You still had to hit goal, whatever that means to you. If that's a business or a personal goal, you still have to hit goal. You can't force yourself. How would you do it? How would you work with your brain? It's a really good exercise to do for a week. If you're not as productive as usual, it's a week. It's not going to kill your business, but it's an experiment to find out how you can make things easier, because we think of it like, I'm going to use the camper analogy because that's what I'm doing, is in the camper, it's on solar power. Okay, I've got 8,000 watts of solar. It's okay. I didn't know what that meant until 2 weeks ago. So it's got a big solar power panels on the top. And if I have the refrigerator on, the Wi-Fi on, the TV on, the AC is on, the fan is on, I'm charging a bunch of things, what's going to happen is, if I'm having everything on at once, it's going to start taxing. I'm not going to have as much left in my batteries. And if I'm putting all this stuff on me at once, and at some point, if I'm using it too much, the batteries are just going to shut down, and we might have what's called an ADHD meltdown, or we might just shut down, when you just get apathetic and it's like there's no discipline left, there's no batteries left, the fuel's gone, mental health stuff gets harder, and so we don't want to get to that point, and that's what the hacks are. And again, what's interesting, and that's why I thought this was a good analogy, is some days are more sunny than others. So the solar is going to be absorbing more energy than other days. And that's kind of like the call we did about red, yellow, and green days, where some days you might have this incredible output, and then other days you might have less. And so that's what I want you to think about is if you could only hit your goal this week, but it had to be easy in the path of least resistance, what would that look like? So that's one concept, because you're going to probably come up with your own hacks too and have some ideas. And then the second thing, before we get into this, I want you to think about as the main concept when you're doing this is if it's something you want yourself to do, if there's something you want yourself to do, remove steps. If it's something you don't want yourself to do, if it's a habit you don't like, add steps. And I'm going to give you some examples. So that's the simple concept as you're kind of getting these hacks in your world is if you want to do it, make it easy and remove steps. Remove choice. Don't get into decision paralysis. Make it as simple as possible. And if you don't want to do that thing, then you need to add steps. So, for example, how I'm thinking of KWADHD as being more ADHD friendly and being more accessible is to sign up for the Tuesday calls. You go to ADHDcall.com and boom, you're on the sign up. I'm not taking you to my website and then you've got to find it and click on it. And then I've eliminated one extra step, and you'd be surprised at the rates of where people sign up if you're eliminating a click, because I want to make it accessible. On the newsletter, the notes are on the email. Right? There's no extra clicking. It's boom. You open the email, boom. There's the information. If you want to go to the YouTube video, you can click on one click and it's there. And then the notes are under there too. The body double room, right? It's one link that never changes. There's no sign up for it. It's just the Zoom room chat and go. And then membership. You don't have an official membership. You join the Facebook group you're in. I'm not saying, hey, to be an official member of KWHE, you've got to go to this website and do these steps. So again, these are just small things that I know I do in my world, that an example of how to make successful. So now I want to give you a bunch of different ideas and examples and hacks. And I went around my house and I grabbed a bunch of stuff. So the first one, we talked about if you want yourself to stop doing something. Is there anybody that watches TV a little bit too late, or video games, or on their phone? Okay, this thing changed my life. This is an outlet timer. So my Wi-Fi is on an outlet timer. It turns off at 10 p.m. every night. If I'm in the middle of a show, boom, shuts it off. And if you go and flip the switch, which a year ago I did, so I put duct tape on it where you couldn't do it. If you flip the switch, it still takes a long time to turn back on. And so it makes it difficult. So the other thing is with our executive dysfunction, we can make things harder, because let's say I'm watching a show and the Wi-Fi turns off. I'm going to have to get up, walk over to the Wi-Fi, flip the switch, wait for it to turn on, then reconnect it on the the TiVo or whatever. And so again, I'm using it against myself in a good way. So that's one. Another thing, your phone. Does anybody go for their phone in the morning, like first thing? Is there anybody that does that? Okay. So I'm still reading about this. Sometimes, and again, I'm still learning about this. For some of us, it can spike our dopamine right in the morning and actually make it harder. So it's not like, oh, social media is bad. It's just, I'm thinking about brain chemistry. It can actually spike our dopamine, and then we have a little bit of a harder morning. It can, not everybody. And so one thing is with the phone, I turn it off and it's plugged in another room. So I have to get out of bed. If you have it right next to your bed and you want to get out of the habit of turning your phone on in the morning, you're not making it easy on yourself, right? If you're trying to stay away from booze, don't go hang out at a bar, right? And so you want to remove things from yourself and make it harder for you to be able to do those. So same thing with savings account, right? It goes into another account that takes 2 to 3 days to transfer back. So I'm adding steps to make things more difficult for me. So then that way I'm not going to do those things. So I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit because I just have all this collection of things around me, and I want to bring up each thing one at a time and kind of show you. So another thing, if you do want something to happen, have a bin in the car for workout gear, because executive function can be affected by our memory, right? Like we can have weaker impulse control. We can kind of be more dopamine seeking, and also change. If we're sitting in the house and it's warm and it's comfortable, or it's we're in a comfortable chair with comfortable blanket, getting up and going and doing something can feel harder. And so we want to make things easier. Some things you can do if you want to get to the gym, it might be that having a bin in the car for all your workout gear, and put a week's worth of clothes in there after you do laundry. Have an extra set of headphones in the car. Memory is something that I'm affected by a lot, short-term memory. So when you hear some of my hacks, you'll hear a lot in there of me having stuff in place if I forget stuff, so I don't have to remember it. So make it really easy if you want to go to the gym, where you literally just have to go get in the car. No matter what you're wearing, no matter what shoes you are, you get in the car and you drive there and your stuff's already in the car. If you're looking to eat healthier, or buy pre-made things or a meal service, some of these things other people might look at as luxuries. We want to look at them as accommodations if they're taxing you to the point where you're not able to do what you need to do. So you might have a cleaner. You might get a food service. You might also, this is another one with groceries, is if you find yourself spending too much, maybe go to Trader Joe's and come out, it's like $200 and you're like, what is this? Like ice cream mochi and all this stuff. So it's fun sometimes, for sure. And what you may do is you can do pickup groceries. So this is something I do if I find I'm spending way too much on things, is you can go online, choose everything you want in your cart, you see how much it is, you make sure that's what you want, and then you go pick it up. So then you just drive up and they give you your groceries. We're not taxing our self-discipline, or our impulse control. Because what you'll learn and what I'm telling you, this is not, me expecting my brain to change. It's saying, hey, I know that I've got this stuff, so I'm going to put stuff in place for it. And I'm not going to beat myself up. It's like there's two of me. There's the kid me and there's the adult me. And the adult me is putting stuff in place for the kid me that, has trouble, saying no or doing the things I need to do. Lawn care, you might get extra child care one night a week. Again, your needs might fluctuate. There were times when I was really having a hard time where I would get paper plates, plastic forks, cups. Anybody have trouble with dishes sometimes sitting in the sink? You just can't make yourself do it. So if you need a break, if your solar system needs a break, go ahead and get disposable stuff for now. It's not that I use it every week, but some weeks when things are feeling hard, I mean, I have depression, I have autism too, I have ADHD, I've got OCD, I've got PTSD. If I was having flashbacks in the past, which my mental health is in a very different place, but I would spend so much time regulating by the time it was 10 a.m. that I wasn't going to do dishes. So make it easy on yourself and just accept where you're at and help yourself. Is what I would say. On that too, with food, I'm going to say, if anybody has trouble, is like easy stuff, like healthy cereal. This is one I go to. Gluten-free, it's healthy cereal. So if I'm just not in a place to cook breakfast, I'm not going to force myself. I've got options. That's one. I don't know if anybody struggles with making themselves eat sometimes or waiting too long. And then, okay, so I'm not alone either. So stuff that literally is like 2 steps, right? This is like protein powder. This is super easy, especially if you're just not feeling like eating. You can usually just tip the drink up and, so frozen fruit in the fridge, it doesn't go bad. I literally have stuff in the fridge that has gone bad. And so if you have that, don't shame yourself for that. So you just literally throw in, frozen fruit, oat milk, almond milk, some protein powder. It takes 2 seconds and you're good. Another option, this is something I have, lentil veggie soup, right? It's organic, it's lentils, it's in the cupboard. So this is something that sits there for harder executive function weeks. I haven't had as many as I used to. I still have the stuff as backup. If you forget food, have you ever been out driving around showing and you realize, oh my gosh, I haven't eaten and I'm starving and I have low blood sugar, I'm getting irritable? So again, these are things I have in my car. Almonds, these are dried fruit, goji berries. I always have water in the car. So I'm really, if you look at it, it's really like a nice way of taking care of yourself, right? It really is like loving yourself, to expect that sometimes you struggle with this stuff and then you just get stuff in place for it. You just get stuff in place for it and it's not a big deal. And it's there if you need it. If anybody lose stuff sometimes, have trouble knowing where they place things, their phone, their keys, Apple AirTags is something that a lot of people use, or something that if you have an Apple Watch, you can press a button, it'll tell you where your phone is. Or if you have AirTags on your keys, your luggage, whatever, you can press that and it'll show you where it is. Dishes, this is another one. Run the dishwasher twice. If you can't rinse them off, just get them in there. Get them in there. Run the dishwasher twice. If you forget about it, run the washer twice. If you forget to switch them to the dryer, I know I'm not the only one who's probably done that, right? Where then you're like, shoot, they're wet still. Another hack is when you need to do something, put your shoes on. Just put your shoes on. I don't know if anybody does that. That changes the game. So if you need to do something around the house, just put your shoes on as the first step, and that can make it feel like, well, shoot, I've got my shoes on. Automate anything you can. Bills, pet food, medicine, jobs stuff, like anything that you can set reoccurring through Amazon that you need, toilet paper. It's going to eliminate these extra steps. It might take a second to get it set up, but then you're going to have that ready to go. You might have your bag that has the stuff for travel that just stays in there. It's your travel bag, and you have extra things, different duplicates of things. Sticky notes. We've talked about the parking lot technique. So if you have a thought or something you need to do, have what's called a parking lot and have sticky notes. Write on the sticky note, put it down there, and then keep going back to what you're doing. And then you can do that over and over again. It'll keep you focused. And then when you're done with that thing, you can choose something on your parking lot, do it, and then it feels really satisfying to kind of crumple it up and throw it away. It looks like there's a lot of really good suggestions in the comments too. Minimalist. So we can get decision fatigue. So when you have lots of options, it can feel really stressful. And so if you can, having less stuff in your house is going to be less stuff to clean, less stuff to organize, that kind of stuff. Your wardrobe, if you have the similar shirt or dress or skirt in the same color, in the texture you like, but you've got multiples, it makes it easier. We want to eliminate decisions is really part of what we want to do as well. If you need to remember something, like the next morning, does anybody else put their keys on top of it if they have to remember something by the door? So you have to grab your keys to see it. Okay, so that's the key trick, is what that's called. Some people put it in their shoes. So if you're pulling your keys, sometimes they don't remember. So if it's in your shoes, you're gonna put your shoes on. You're gonna feel what that thing is. You can't forget. That's one. Bedtime. Does anybody struggle sometimes turning the screens off and going to bed, even if you have a Wi-Fi timer? Okay. So the other thing, again, if we're thinking about not using discipline, remember that when things are interesting, that acronym INCUP, if they're interesting, if they're new, if they're challenging, if they're urgent, if it's a passion, we can go towards those. Have fun things that you're interested in. Books. One of my special interests is aquariums. So this is like a nerd book about aquascaping that I have. I'll show you some other things. This is like the equivalent of Google. It's just all kinds of facts that are really interesting, that are, it's again, we're looking for, and this is Camping and Wilderness Survival Guide. So these are books that I keep by my bed. That might be a little bit harder to see. These are things I keep by my bed that are exciting to me, because as a coach now for so many years, when you're trying to go to bed and it's like, hey, here's this really cool dopamine producing machine with anything you ever want to see, with all the people you care about, fun stuff, videos, movies, everything you've ever liked, and it gives you instant dopamine. Turn it off, put it away, and go lay down and be quiet in your bed and go to bed, go to sleep. Like, don't do that to yourself, Get coloring books, get whatever that looks like, something, because this is, when we did the call on motivation, we talked about how dopamine gets sent to the frontal lobe when we're talking about motivation. When there's a bunch of dopamine, that's when our brain says, ooh, keep going. We're going to keep getting more of this. This is good. Something good is coming. Well, a phone can do that. And if you don't put the phone down, or at least get a little break from it, it's going to keep doing that. That's why it's harder for us to put it down, because it's like, here's dopamine, you've been starving for it. So give yourself some other dopamine to wean off to, instead of beating yourself up for not turning your phone off, because that's not fair. This is a brain chemistry thing. And so you'll notice with these hacks, again, we're having understanding about ourselves. This is not shaming ourselves. It's not discipline. This is not a punishment. I don't know about you. That's not a kind of life I want to lead. I don't want to lead a life by avoiding pain. That sucks. I want to go towards the things I like. I want to make things easy. Medication. I want to show you, this has been game changer for me, and I can add the links to this. So medication, the certain medication that I'm on is newer. It's a certain type of stimulant, so there's not extended release. So I take it multiple times per day. So this is something. These are all these, and they just slide out, and they have all these compartments here. And so when I leave, if I'm going somewhere, I just grab this one, and then I bring it with me in my backpack, wherever. It's always with me. And then also, I don't know if you have this. You ever before this, I would take one, and then I would be like, "Wait, did I take one? You know that? Did I wait? Did I take my stimulant already?" Okay. So, so these are really helpful because I can say, "Oh yeah, I took the morning one, right? I took the afternoon one." So these are small. They're little. I can put a link in there. I mean, anything like this will work, but they can fit in a pocket, and so that's really helpful. Again, I'm not wanting to put myself in places where I feel shamed, right? So those are some things. Let's see. And then remember too, done poorly or partway is better than not done at all. So we can be a lot of perfectionists. So I've got to wait. I got to do this big effort on this thing, or I've got to do this perfect, and then we don't start it at all. And so that's something too. Partly done, poorly done is still better than not done at all. Right? Send the email that's not perfectly worded. Start cleaning, even if you won't have time to do the whole thing. Do 5 or 10 minutes of it if you can. Put on some music, and then reward yourself for it. Get excited about it. Certain things like that, just a little bit. And that kind of ties into the call we did on like all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking. It's either got to be perfect or I'm not doing it. I've got to do it all today, this weekend. I've got to clean the whole house, or you know what? I'll just wait till next weekend because I'm tired. I've done that a lot of times. So again, that's kind of that practice of softening the extreme, softening the all or nothing, and then doing that. And I'm putting the link to all our past calls. So if you've missed those, the notes are really good. So that link is to all the past calls we've had. And then you can check out my YouTube channel too if you want to know more about what I'm talking about with that. Body doubling, this is huge. For KW-ADHD, we have a body double Zoom room. And so what that is, if you haven't heard of it, it's when even somebody's just sitting with you and now you're able to do the thing that you weren't able to do. It could be that they're literally just there. On Thursday, my mom's going to come over and just sit at my house while I organize the stuff that's felt hard. And she's literally probably just going to read a book, But for us, sometimes that can kind of engage that urgent part of our brain that then creates dopamine, it creates motivation, and there's somebody else watching. So body doubling, have your friend, your spouse, anybody come sit by you, work next to somebody. If you have to go to the gym, meet someone there. Do an activity that's fun, that is enjoyable for you, and then that's going to make it a lot easier. Let's see. I think that okay, so we got that. I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything for in here. Yeah, so those are some of the main hacks that I have really for executive function. I mean, we've talked a little bit about executive function in itself, and just one thing I want to talk about too is what's called a habit. So this is an alternative to time blocking. So when we're talking about discipline, I've talked about this, I think once or twice before. So if time blocking is not working for you, let's say there's something you have to do every day. You have to do every day. What a habit loop is, and this is a Pulitzer Prize winner that figured this out. There's 3 parts to a habit loop. So instead of I've got to do lead gen at 9 a.m. every single morning, that's the deal. I've got to do this way. You do what's called a habit loop. So the 3 parts are, the first part is the trigger for whatever the habit is. The second part is actually executing on the habit. And then the third part is the reward or the dopamine. And so instead of doing a discipline thing, you can attach the thing you want to do to something else, and then have a reward after. So for example, and I'm going to use one from someone in the group here, is lead gen, or time blocking was really hard for lead gen. And so she always had coffee in the morning. Anybody else like coffee? Anybody else not drink coffee? Is anybody sensitive to caffeine? Okay. So in the morning, she would drink her coffee, and she always did, and then she would text 10 people. And then the reward is she could play the game on her phone that was like solitaire and was fun. She might even be on the call. And so that was the habit. So instead of trying over and over again to do Legion at this exact same time, because remember, we do well with structure. If it's too rigid, we can rebel. If it's too structured, then it's too structured for us. We don't have enough flexibility, and it doesn't work. Yeah, we want to gamify this. So every time she drank her coffee, she would text 10 people, and then she'd play her game and set a timer, I think, for 10 minutes, and that worked. Somebody who wasn't able to do Legion, who had been through a lot of coaches, and all of a sudden we actually did something that worked with her brain, and then she even did it on Saturday and Sunday because it felt weird not to do it, and then boom, you got listings. So that's a habit loop. So again, we want to really get stuff in place that makes things easier, that we don't have to use self-discipline for. Don't judge yourself for it. And then remember that if it's something you do want to do more of, remove steps. And if it's something you don't want yourself to do, add steps to make it more difficult. One more thing I did forget. Keep cash in your car if you forget your wallet. I forgot about that. I didn't pull this cash out for nothing. So keep this in your car if you forget your wallet. That was the last hack I had. I knew I was missing something. So anyways, thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy your hacks, whatever, if it's lentils or timer or whatever that is. And then let us know if you have any more. Have a great day, everybody.